It's the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Thursday, December the 12th. Good morning. Glad to be with you. Don't leave home.
Jeez.
Put another log on the fire. Maybe grab an extra pair of socks. Get back under the covers. Good God almighty.
Hey, when I was driving in, the thermometer on my car went from -6 to -5, so we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, anywhere from, let's see, -8 I saw I think that's the lowest I saw. We're expecting to get up over almost to 5 by the end, in the middle of the day. 4 or 5 is gonna feel pretty good. Middle of the afternoon. You know what?
Not gonna feel
like I
like
said,
that.
Screw it. Go back to bed. Just you know what? Let's just all go home. Let's just forget
Sold.
this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
My grandpa used to always say on days like today, he'd go, I got 2 snowballs next to my South Pole. I never really understood it or fully got it, but he would just laugh and laugh.
Yeah, he would. Sure, he would.
Laugh. By the way, warmest day, I always like to, when we get these this is unusually cold this time of the year. I don't think we go sub-zero very often in December. It happens, but I just don't feel like, I think of it more as a January, February thing. But 1968 today, 53 degrees.
Damn, really?
Yeah. 1879 today, -15.
Oh, how could they even measure back then?
Easy. You stick your wiener outside.
That's exactly it.
You go, Ole, I think it's about 15 below there. Yeah,
South
shriveled
Pole.
all the way inside.
That's exactly right. It's funny because, for all the talk about, it's cold, whatever, it's, what can we not come up with something better than the weather to talk about? Yeah, we can, usually. But not on a day like this. I'm sorry. I'm just going to get right to it. When I'm completely covered head to toe and still feel like someone's sticking a needle in my spine when I step outside, it's like, okay, no, this is not normal. This is ridiculous. We've allowed ourselves to believe this is okay. But you know what? We're going to get through it. I mean, so far, the heat is still on in the station. So let's get to it. It is Thursday, December 12th. Here's your top 5 at 6 to get your day up and running. In what will be Brian Zepp's least surprising story ever, marijuana sales in the state of Minnesota have been delayed until at least June of 2025. Brian, go ahead.
You frickin' morons. I mean, what in the hell? This is why you buy it off the guy in the street. This is why you have a friend who has a friend, and you don't turn this crap over to politicians. By the way, we're officially the 3rd slowest state, but we'll be the slowest state.
Yeah.
It'll never be legal. It will never, ever, for the rest of my life, be legal to buy marijuana in the state of Minnesota. And it would be okay if they were just ripping bong hits at the state capitol and their little cannabis room there. They're just getting super stoned and go, what are we forgetting to do today? That I would totally respect.
Yeah, not that.
But they just can't get out of their own ways. It's too much fun. So people are just going to smoke pot and have fun and get high and enjoy life a little bit more. I don't know. Let's bat this around the room for another couple of years.
The first time I said the words on a microphone in the state of Minnesota, hey man, we just legalized weed. Brian goes, it will never happen. First thing is, do you have any idea how long it's going to take for this to transpire, for this to become something where you actually just go buy a bag of weed? You go, never. That's how long it's going to take. It will never happen.
Yeah. So far, I'm still right.
I saw the headline and I felt bad for us, but good for you, Brian. Vindication, brother. Well played. Number 4 on your top 5 at 6. Here's a weird one. I've seen on social media the last couple days, people keep sharing a photo of Ray Liotta from the last 20 minutes of Goodfellas, where he's constantly looking out of his windshield for a helicopter because he's convinced that he's being chased, and it turns out he is. And really what he is just way on a cocaine bender, and he's losing his mind, and he's paranoid. And every time I get on Twitter or X or Blue Sky or wherever, someone has that picture, and they go, New Jersey right now. And I finally know why. Because there are reports, the FBI is now investigating over both New York and New Jersey, that SUV-sized drones, or what they're being described, are flying around at will. Residents continue to see what they say are the size of an SUV, lights disappearing when approached. There are videos showing orbs that are hovering and then vanishing. They started in the summer. Now they're more frequent, and people in that area are starting to get a little freaked out. And also, Northfield, Minnesota residents have started to report very mysterious flashing lights in the sky. Maybe we don't need legal weed. Maybe we're doing just fine already.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it seems hoaxy, I guess, but the big thing now is, can we shoot at these drones? There was recently a guy that shot down a Walmart drone. I think that happened just this week. Some Walmart drone was coming in to make a delivery, not at his place, and he's just like, not over my property. By the way, in Montana, legal to shoot down any drone that crosses your property line.
Well,
but yeah, this is Representative Chris Smith and Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh talking about these drones in New York and New Jersey.
One of their 47-foot motor lifeboats was followed by between 12 and 30 of these drones.
Our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
Okay. All right. Well, then.
Okay. All I know
They're not
is this.
Chinese drones. Yeah.
When I look up and see a Chevy Tahoe hovering overhead, I'm shooting that bastard. I don't, a drone's one thing. An SUV-sized drone, that's a problem, man. I'm not comfortable with that at all.
Yeah.
Number 3 on your top 5 and 6. We've all wanted to be this guy. In Utah, a gentleman bought a used car on Monday. Went back to the dealership that same day and said, hey, man, you guys sold me a lemon. And they said, buyer beware, caveat emptor, the Mike Brady lesson. They said, hey, man, sorry, we're done. I don't know what you want us to do. And then he decided to take matters into his own hands. Oh, if you're wondering what he did, take a listen.
Whoa! Call the cops!
Is anybody under the car?
No.
It was kind of a very, very scary situation. Several hours later, he came back and he was very emotional. He said, listen, if you don't give me my money back right now, I'm going to run this car right through the front door.
I was just really angry. I was upset about my money. I kind of blacked out for a second. Mm-hmm. I know I probably shouldn't have done it, but I guess I just hit a breaking point.
Yeah. It felt good just for like a micro moment, and then
Sure
it's like,
it did.
oh, man, I'm going to jail over a beater.
Yeah. It's the guy actually made me feel bad for him a little bit there. You could just feel all the regret, all of the all of these decisions in life have led to this. Oh boy,
that's
a tough one. That's a tough one. I have a dear old friend of mine, no longer with us, a tour accountant for a promoter for many, many years, Ray Compton, who did the same thing at a bar in the French Quarter. But he had he was still enough of a gentleman to let everybody know, I'm so pissed off at the bartender, I'd move to the back of the bar if I were you. I'm going to be back in 2 minutes. And then he drove his car in right through the front door of a bar.
No.
Fair warning.
Just high as a kite. This is way like in the late 70s. But he did have the sense to go in. Hey, everybody, hey, move to the back. A gentleman.
Yeah.
A gentleman tells people, hey, get out of the way. I'm about to drive my car into this building. So
I would have got out of the way.
I absolutely.
Yeah.
There's not a bar in the world I would not get up and move out of my seat if I heard a guy say that.
Yeah, no
Number
kidding.
2 on your top 5 and 6. Boy. Okay, ladies, this is something you got to be a little wary of. Mm-hmm. A new study found that women are more likely over the next 2 weeks than any other time of year to get accidentally knocked up.
Whoopsie.
This is your 2-week window when, oh my goodness, the Counting Crows song, Accidentally in Utero, I think is what it was called. More than a bunch of women said the reason was they simply forgot to take a birth control pill or simply had an unplanned pregnancy happen over Christmas, because the main reasons are you're just drinking more often, more regularly. You're going to a lot of Christmas parties. At those parties, you're making risky decisions. And one thing leads to another, and then you got a whole different September than you were expecting.
This is why I stay away from eggnog.
This is why.
That's your weakness, eggnog? Steven's loading up on eggnog. I mean, I'm thinking of my buddy Will in Bloomington. Will, I'm going to out you here. Now he's married, settled down, has a couple of kids. But many years ago, a couple of decades ago, when we were both single guys, just cruising around the metro, he would often, whoever he was dating, he broke up with in November because he said December is the best time to date women. They're desperate for love, romance. They don't want to be alone on Christmas. Yeah. And then, he was a disgusting individual. Will, I love you, brother.
Man, he was the Twin Cities' own backdoor Santa. He was just dropping off deliveries all day long while the men were at work.
We did a story, and I think I blamed it on the January cold here in Minnesota, but here we go. That aren't most birthdays celebrated in September? I feel like we just did that story in September. All right, well, that's if I'm
exactly
doing the
right.
math. Yeah, we're in that territory, aren't we?
I'm an August birthday, which just goes to show how much my parents love Thanksgiving. Hey, real quick here, want to give a shout out to a city in Minnesota that we refer to as a complete unknown. That would be Zimmerman, of course. Zimmerman.
Yes.
Good to have you with us this morning.
Always dear to my heart. I make trips to Zimmerman more than any other city probably in Minnesota because there are 19 Hardys in the state of Minnesota. And I kid you not intentionally. I'm not one of those weirdos, but I have been to all 19 Hardys. But Zimmerman is my favorite, and it's a little bit of a trek, further than some of the other ones. There are 4 in the metro, but that Zimmerman Hardee's up on Fremont that is open as of 12 minutes ago. I love you. I'll see you soon.
Oh man, I tell you what, when you want to sit down and have a long winter's night conversation about where to get a solid breakfast sandwich at a drive-through window, Brian Zepp is your man.
Yeah, I am.
Number 1 on your top 5 at 6, Ryan Borgwart, cult hero, strange guy from Wisconsin who faked his own death this summer and fled to Eastern Europe. We've been talking about him for a while. He is now, it was confirmed yesterday afternoon, he is in the Green Lake County Sheriff's Office. He's in custody. He's been charged with not the kind. I was expecting more charges. He intended to mislead investigators by intentionally leaving items. He was charged with 1 count of misdemeanor obstructing an officer. I would think faking your own death, blasting out of the country on a second passport, taking out a life insurance policy for yourself. I mean, he went to a lot of work to only drum up 1 misdemeanor charge, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe that's why he came back on his own, I suppose.
He did come back on his own. Now, this is a guy who on November 11th was contacted by authorities. The investigators contacted a woman who does speak Russian, and through her, via this woman, contacted him. He said, yeah, I'm safe. I'm here. He told the police exactly how he did it, what he did. And then apparently over the last month or so, he realized, I think the right thing to do is to head back and come clean. And so there you have it. That is a plan gone well awry, to say the very least.
Now he's thinking about the right thing to do. He's got how many kids and a wife?
3. I believe he's got 3 kids and a wife.
Okay. Now he's thinking about the right thing to do. He's covering his ass, I suppose. But, doesn't he owe the state of Wisconsin like over $50,000 for that search and rescue?
They had divers in the lake for weeks and weeks and weeks. Completely insane story. More will be coming out, I'm sure. I mean, I'm all for a good old-fashioned midlife crisis, but when you involve, fake passports in Eastern Europe and faking your own death, come on, dude.
Get a Harley.
Get it. Thank you.
Buy a Harley.
Thank you. Get a Harley or get a snowmobile. One or the other. Just go fast. Go fast somewhere. Live a little bit. All right. There's your top 5 at 6. If you're just joining us, just honest to God, go back to bed. Don't even worry about whatever you had planned. There's no reason to leave home. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Really rethinking my plans for the day.
I know it. Here I go with old buddy stories again. But I had a friend, the old winter kit that you put in the car that Mom always tells you, make sure you have for some reason, a coffee can with a candle in it and a blanket and all of these things. Make sure your car is topped off. He would actually carry firewood in his trunk. He goes, oh, hell with it if I have to. Yeah. Just going to build a freaking fire,
That's intense.
Yeah, that was intense. But he drove a lot of junkers. I don't think he was going to. We just told him, just start the damn car on fire. It's not worth that much money.
That was my thought. That car will burn a lot hotter than that wood.
Long time.
Yeah, I've been by a few cars on fire. That'll keep you warm. That'll keep you toasty. Okay, I think we have a caller lined up to go. Mark from Hamburg. Mark, are you with us?
I am.
All right, good morning, Mark. Give me your favorite band.
Favorite band would be Leonard Skinner.
Give me your favorite team, any sport.
Vikings.
All right, Skinner and the Vikings. A hearty combination right there. This is a very quick game, Mark. Know it or blow it. I'm going to give you one question. You got 5 seconds to give me an answer. No ifs, ands, or buts. Are you ready?
5 seconds of fame.
Here it is. Give me the name, first and last. Give me the name of the Minnesota Wild's current head coach. Go.
Oh, jeez. I don't know.
I'm sorry. OGs is not correct. The answer was John Hines. But we appreciate the call and thank you for playing, buddy. That's it, Mark. But you know what? These tickets are not going to go unused. Text the word STEAL to 651-989-ROCK and try to swipe those tickets. Anybody else that wants to, text the word STEAL to 651-989-ROCK right now. Somebody is going to win tickets to see the Wild and the Florida Panthers next Wednesday night. It's just that easy.
As in steal the tickets or steal, like, I don't know. It's ice as hard as steel outside right now.
STEAL. Steal those tickets.
They'll both work. Spelling doesn't count for this.
Oh, it doesn't? All right.
Yeah. I gotcha.
All right, fair enough. As long as we can justify, I think they tried to spell steal. You got a good chance. Hell, I don't care if you write spiel or go ahead and add Glocken in front of it. Whatever. We want to give away some tickets. Let's look back. Oh, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. On this day in 1981, Wayne Gretzky scored his 50th goal of the season. On December the 12th, 50th goal. It was the 39th game of the season.
Was it that season where the goalies went on strike? I mean, mathematically can you...
earlier this season, in February of 24, earlier this year, I should say, last season, a kid named Austin Matthews scored his 50th goal in the 54th game. That's the fastest an American-born NHL player has ever gotten to 50. 54 games. And that's impressive, and nothing against Austin Matthews. But Gretzky, again, I'm sorry, 50 goals in 39 games against other professional hockey players. Guy's just a jerk.
He is a jerk, and I love the fact that everyone was trying to take off his head at that point in his career.
Oh, sure, 81, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was just like a game of Frogger out there, Everybody was just trying to mow him down, and he was still just dropping him in the net.
On this day in 2001, former Dallas Cowboy Nate Newton, for the second time in 6 weeks, was arrested with a van full of marijuana. How full? 175 pounds full. For the second time in 6 weeks again. Former Dallas Cowboy Nate Newton, boy. That when they say to athletes, you got to think about hobbies for after the game is done, they didn't think massive amounts of drug trafficking should maybe be the way to go. But Nate was always his own guy, Give him credit for that. On this day in 2010, it was Minneapolis-St. Paul had gone through 3 straight days of snow, and in fact, 17 inches of snow on December 11th, 2010 at the airport. That's a whole lot of snow. And it was the morning of December 12th, 2010 that we all remember when the Metrodome roof said, I'm done. I'm out. The Metrodome roof collapsed, for God's sakes. The Vikings were supposed to be playing the New York Giants later that day, and then they couldn't play the game. So what did they do? They all went over to Detroit and played a Monday game in Detroit at Ford Field.
Couldn't
what
have
a
happened
bizarre thing.
Oh, yeah. It couldn't have happened to a lousier building. Everyone, even I believe the architect was happy when they mowed that thing down. But it led to, listen, over at Huntington Bank Stadium, our neighbor right over here across the swamp in Dinkytown, led to just some of the best NFL football I've ever witnessed because we were watching NFL football in a medium to small size college outdoor stadium, which hadn't happened since probably the 1970s. And it was I remember the Bears game. Favre was the quarterback. It was snowing to beat hell. We had our Carhartts on. We might have been able to sneak in some schnapps. I don't remember, but it was a hell of a good time. I missed that season a little bit.
You know, I had a similar game experience with the great 98 Vikings, the team that should have done it all. The 15-1 Vikings, they played in Nashville against the Titans at Vanderbilt University Stadium. Same vibe. Day after Christmas, ice storm had rolled in, and we're all in a small college stadium watching Randy Moss and Chris Carter going, life's pretty good. This is kind of how it's supposed to be. We're drunk at 10 a.m., and there's an amazing football team on the field, and it's not the Titans.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. It's the KQ Morning Show on Minnesota's Classic Rock, 92 KQRS.
It is December the 12th, and boy, 12 would be nice, wouldn't it? Don't think we're going to get there. 12 degrees above zero? Forget it. That's a pipe dream. It is, if you're just now getting up, it is real cold out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's silly cold, and we're talking about the cold. It's so cold we're actually going to talk about it. That's really the only way I can contextualize this. 651-989-ROCK is the KQ Talk and Text line. If you have a concern, if you have a fun anecdote, we'll take it, man. Text or call. But we've already got people texting in. There's already some flexing happening right now. We're getting some texts that say things like, "Yeah, I'm in Stillwater. It's 13 below. In your face, Gorman." You know, stuff like that.
Because it's only 7 below here.
That's exactly right. We got a driving in, listening to your show, minus 13 in North Branch. So North Branch and Stillwater all checking in under at 13 below. So, you know, let us know what's going on with you. I'm thinking about this cold. And here's just a quick general question. Is there a moment for either you, Ryder, or Zepp, where if I go coldest moment of your life, is there just one where you're like, oh, that was it. That was the worst it's ever been? Does any one thing come to mind? Or as you are both upper Midwesterners for your whole life, you probably just have a ton of them.
I think I do have a ton of them. I'll jump in first. But one I remember because it was so much damn fun in the cold. Because everyone remembers when you didn't feel your feet all day long or something like that. You're wondering if you're going to lose a toe. We've all had those moments. But was the beer dabbler over at the state fairgrounds. The very first one they had, and I don't remember what, let's just say 10 years ago, was the first beer dabbler. And I had a friend that was working over there selling some T-shirts for this hunting deal. So I told him I'd help him out. And it was true temperature 15 below that day. That was the true temperature. And then you had a little breeze going there that day, and we were hitting wind chills of 40 below zero. We all know the hot air balloons, that big fire that blows up the balloon. They brought the baskets out with the big burners on them without the balloon, and they would just fire that thing off.
My God.
And it would emit heat in about a 20-foot radius around that thing, and we were all crowded in there. But this is what I remember. You were getting glasses of beer. And when they filled your glass with beer, you had 1,001, 1,002, 1,003 to drink the entire glass, or it froze in your glass. They had propane torches out there to thaw out your glass so that you could get another beer in there. And for some dumbass reason, we all had a hell of a good time.
Well, yeah, when you're drinking beer fast, for a while anyway, you're guaranteed hilarity.
Yeah. I lost 2 toes.
And then I lost 2. You're guaranteed hilarity. I'm curious, how fast does vomit freeze? I'm sure you found that out as well, too. How fast does beer coming out of your nose freeze? Does it get to the ground yet? That's pretty fascinating. I've got 2 things that come to mind. One of those, it does involve Minneapolis. But before that, on the horn, 651-989-ROCK, we got Dave calling in. Dave, good morning.
Hey.
Dave, what do you got for us, brother?
I'm a native from Minnesota. I was raised here.
Okay.
1975, I was living on Grand Avenue, right by Grand and Dale.
Okay.
And I was living a low-key existence. I did not have a telephone. There was a pay phone across the street. There was a drugstore on the corner. Yeah. A pay phone. I went over to use it.
Yeah.
It was frozen up.
Yeah.
Hey, the wind chill was, 76 below. The actual temperature was somewhere between 25 and 30 below.
No one got a hold of their drug dealers that day.
Man. Yeah, that's the landline was your friend. I'm sorry you had to deal with the payphone that didn't work at that point, but that's pretty impressive, Dave. How many layers? I mean, what's the most insane? Did you like wrap your body in like Saran wrap before you put clothes on? I mean, man, that's just I can't even imagine that kind of wind chill. Don't turn that radio down, Dave. All right, listen, moving on. I was in Chicago in 1991, and I was not on the actual sand of the shore of Lake Michigan, but on the sidewalk right behind it. So I'm looking at Lake Michigan. It's late at night, and I am beyond pickled. And it's January, and the wind is blowing so strong that it was holding me. I was leaning my full body into the wind and not falling forward. And I was bundled up. I didn't have my face covered, but I had a hat anyway and a hood, but I didn't have like a face mask. And I was with my cousin, and I turned to say something, and I quite honestly couldn't. I was like, I was having and I was like,
oh yeah.
I turned my back to the water, and then I just started walking back to the hotel, thinking, oh my God, I'm about to die. What the hell did I just do? Yeah. And I always said. And I had a headache right away. And I always said, I'll never be that cold again. I'll make sure of it. I will just make sure to never be that cold again. And I wasn't. Until 1994, I came to Minneapolis for the NBA All-Star Game.
Yes.
A weekend in February. And holy hell, a midnight, well, actually, it's post-midnight, a very late night, early morning show at Paisley Park. I saw Prince perform at Paisley Park Saturday night, Sunday morning. 3:30, 4 a.m. as we're egressing the venue. The wind chill out there, they said the wind chill, it's like 40 below. And I thought that was the way you say things in the South, like, oh, it's 200 degrees out there. I didn't know that was real. It was really 40 below. And I was like, oh, sure. And then I noticed, so they're assisting all the people from this party to get to their cars. They have like bodyguards, security guards from Paisley Park. They're wrapping everybody in like giant, like bearskin rug looking things. They're putting them over you.
That's how Prince rolls.
And they're escorting everybody in groups of 2 or 3 to their town car or limo or whoever was picking you up. And it was only 30 or 40 steps tops to get to your car from the door. Yeah. But they were covering everyone with these giant rugs. And so as my group was being escorted out to our car, right as I was approaching the door, they were like, shuffling and taking the thing away. And I got a blast of air in the face. And it was but I thought, I'm just going to take this for a couple seconds just to see what happens. Yeah. And here's what happened. I had a very runny nose with a head cold, and my nostrils froze shut.
Oh, yeah.
Again, didn't know that was a thing. I got into a car, and my nose didn't work. And I felt like someone had put a nail right in between my eyes, just nailed a hammer. Dink, dink, dink. My head hurt so bad, and I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And so I was like, and then I panicked. And so, of course, I'm like, breathing out of my mouth, and everyone's looking at me. I'm like, I cut my nose. I can't. And my head was killing me. And then I was like, no, this was the dumbest, coldest moment of my life. And I will say I've not had that since. I have definitely refrained from putting myself in a situation to freeze my nose shut ever since.
Yeah, that's where you need that girlfriend that likes to suck on noses. Now, Ryder.
Still looking for her, by the way.
Yeah, Lisa, I'll hook you up. Ryder, now you're born and raised right here in the frosty Northlands. You've got to have some frozen to the bone stories.
They all just kind of meshed together. I think the first one that really blew my mind was we were, coming back from daycare or whatever, walking home to the house, and it was like right by the Cardinal Bar. Walked into the back entry, and there was just sticky stuff all over the place. It was so cold in the pantry that my dad's Diet Coke exploded everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if we're exploding cold yet either, but I do remember it getting so cold here that the windshield wiper fluid would freeze.
Oh, yeah.
You try to use that I would use that to get the frost off because I'm too lazy. I'm like, it's a thin layer of frost. I'm going to use the windshield. But it can get so cold that, those of us that have owned diesels or grew up on farms, if you didn't plug them in or something like that, it could get so cold. And this happened out in the farm in South Dakota where the diesel fuel just gels. It gels at like 20 below zero or something like that. Yeah, water mains burst, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah, boy. 651-989-ROCK. That is your KQ talk and text line. We'd love to hear from you. It's cold enough to warrant this conversation. But before I forget, I do want to say good morning to our friends in Wyoming, Minnesota.
Oh, Wyoming. I would just say I used to date a gal up in Wyoming, and every week there's a grocery store, Bruce's Foods in downtown Wyoming, and they have a recipe of the week. And she used to always, whenever they had like stuff like garlic mashed potatoes, yeah, she'd make me that from Bruce's. I remember
Very
that.
nice.
Wonder what she's up to. Good morning, Vicky. My bad. That was me, not you. It was me.
Bring some mashed potatoes by if you want to rekindle anything. I'm
no
starving.
kidding. Yeah.
Hey, we do have 4 weird things that'll help you keep the cold at bay. We'll get to those and more with this ridiculous cold snap. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Good Thursday morning, December the 12th. Oh, baby, it's cold outside, as they say. On the KQ Talk and Text line, we've been hearing from a few folks that are saying Stillwater, 13 below, Ogilvy, 13 below. But right now, I believe, let's see, where was it? The clubhouse leader coming in from Hinckley, 15 below.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. That'll do it. Quick question. Somebody said if it's 0 degrees and expected to be twice as cold tomorrow, how cold will it get? The answer is death, right? I don't know. It's something like that.
Too much math there.
Yeah, that is. I'd have to Google that.
If you're still inside, stay there. That's what we're getting at today. That's the theme of this Thursday. Don't just come up with a reason not to leave the house. It is hurting cold, I would call that. Brian from East Bethel texted in, I remember 30 years ago playing paintball outside with a bunch of guys. It was 17 below. The paintballs froze and hurt like hell when you got hit. Even with all the clothes we had on, eventually the guns froze up. Yeah, I bet they did.
I mean, that's a musket ball. That's not a paintball anymore. You're firing a black powder round.
Yeah, you're reenacting the Battle of Concord, as they say.
Yeah, no
Let's
kidding.
just shoot
Valley
the
Forge,
redcoats.
maybe, yeah.
My God, that's insane. All right, we got a new Boyceville, Wisconsin coming in strong at 18 below. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, that's getting pretty cold, you know. We're messing around the single digits below. If it's not windy out, it's not bad. I mean, I'd rather have it be like 5 below out ice fishing, sitting on a bucket with no wind than say, I've been out before and it's been 15 degrees and you get a wind and it feels a hell of a lot colder. But double digits, you get to 18 below. There's no getting around that. That's just your spit is freezing. What did you say, Ryder? Your eyelashes froze together one time?
Oh, no, this has happened many times, but that's when I know that I'm real pissed off about it being cold, is when my eyelashes start to freeze together.
Oh,
it's
man.
the one thing I can't tolerate.
Yeah.
This text, it was so cold in January about 10 years ago, our plane wouldn't start. Took them 3 hours to get it going. We were late to leave for Mexico. I haven't heard about the grounding of a flight because of the cold. My sister lived for a while. Her husband was with the State Department. They lived in Kuwait, and on the opposite side of the spectrum. For about half the year over there, you could only take off or land between midnight and 4 a.m. Otherwise, it was too hot. The runways would be so soft in the heat.
Sure.
So,
man.
if you went to go visit her, I never went. My mom and a couple other siblings, people that would fly to Kuwait, you'd land at 3 a.m. because that was the only way to guarantee your safety with the heat going on over there. I like this. So someone texted in, Steve, below 0, 93 cold snap. We bundled up in so much outside work gear, went to Prior Lake, Lakefront Hill, and went sledding, or tried to. We had inflatable inner tubes and plopped down to ride down the hill. They literally fell to the ground in powder chunks. It was so cold. It was so cold that the plastic just fell apart. Okay. That's enough.
Yeah.
By the time that's happening, forget it, man.
Yeah, time to go back in and play video games and make a hot toddy. You mentioned Kuwait. I want to mention our more than 550 Minnesota National Guard soldiers returning home this week. 10-month deployment in Kuwait. Welcome home from the heat of Kuwait.
Oh,
to
yeah.
sub-zero temperatures in Minnesota.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
fellas. Welcome
by
home.
the-
And ladies, of course.
Yeah, the 34th Red Bull Infantry Division. Wow.
If you're feeling cold, sit down and get yourself an extra helping of something, because one of the things that makes you feel colder always, of course, not eating enough. Your body is better at dealing with cold when you've had enough to eat. And the same thing goes for staying hydrated. That does not include beer. That means water. Keep on drinking, baby. This one gets me here. Another reason you may be a little colder than you should feel, than you think you should be, just simply being 60 or older. There's really not a lot you can do about it. Shivering is your body's way of keeping warm by making your muscles spasm. But as you age, your body doesn't shiver as well. So you don't develop the ability to shiver until you're about 2. So babies don't shiver and older people don't shiver. So we come in cold, we go out cold. And in between, I guess we need to appreciate the warm years a little more.
I guess something else to look forward to with old age. All right.
I'm still a shiverer. I'll be 60 next year. So I'm still very much, I'm still got a good shiver in me at any time.
Oh, yeah. I get going. You get the shakes, man, and they can't stop sometimes.
It's the worst. Also, some medications, drugs, if you have high blood pressure medication like beta blockers can make you much more sensitive to the cold. Again, on the opposite side of that, when I was, in my teens or maybe 20, I went to a... I almost said I went to a ventriloquist. What am I trying to say? I went to a ventriloquist. I was like, doctor, I can't throw my voice. I went to a what's a face doctor? I had a bunch of zits.
Dermatologist.
Thank you. My God, a ventriloquist. I went to a dermatologist and he gave me something, some pill. He said, "Here, just take this," and I took it and I was like, "Great." I don't remember what it was called, but what he said, and what of course I didn't hear, was he said, "Don't get out in the sun." I was, didn't hear a word he said. Went straight to the beach.
Yeah,
went right to a beach for a week, and man, did I burn! I burnt like a crisp. It was the only time. It was like the worst sunburn, and it was instant too. And before I was even red, it hurt my skin. I was like, "What's going on? I'll just put on more sunscreen." It didn't even occur to me I was on medication that I'm not supposed to be out in the sun, but. Yeah, these things happen. But by the way, also, being used to warm weather, it's not just a mental thing. If you are from the South, if you are from a warm weather climate and you go up north, you are going to be colder than other people. Bodies acclimate to where they are. Yeah. And I knew that in reverse because my cousin who worked with my band for years on the road, he grew up in Michigan. I grew up farther south, and this is a guy who didn't think twice about walking out in shorts when it was 26 degrees. And I was always just like, what is happening? Like, I would die. And it was just that exact thing, whatever you're used to. So Minnesotans talking about the cold, it's got to get below 0 before anybody really gets too excited about it. And I learned that very quickly last year. Second week on the air, we had a 15 or 16 below day.
Yeah.
And I walked into the building and I looked at you guys and whatever the look on my face was, you were all like, yeah, just get used to it. I'm like, no, I don't want to get used to this. This is not getting used-to-able. This is not possible. What's wrong with you? But it's kind of nuts. Anyway.
Yeah, very, very much nuts. I remember coming home from, a lot of Minnesotans, we love our warm weather vacations. We like to duck out sometime early in the year and sink our toes in the sand somewhere. And I went to Cabo, I think it was like 18 maybe, and it was unusually warm in Cabo in February. It was upper 90s, about 100 degrees. We were just cooking out there. Rather uncomfortable, to be honest with you. I didn't spend as much time outside as I probably would have otherwise. And then got back to Minnesota, and it was over 100-degree swing, of course, because it was about 10 below when we landed. Oof. And I ended up going snowmobiling up in Mille Lacs the next day. Got home on a Friday, Saturday, up to Mille Lacs, and I just couldn't hack it. I couldn't do it. I had to puss out. I tapped out. Yeah. I was like, guys, I can't do this. I got to go. I'm just going to go sit at the bar. I'll see you guys when you come in with a pretty good buzz. I was just, even with the layers on and everything, my body was not having it. couldn't physically do it.
It was it's called the winter bends, is what that's called. You gave yourself the winter bends.
I did get the winter bends.
I love this text. Camping outside the St. Paul Civic Center in 1984 for Van Halen tickets. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just stop right there. Wasn't the world a better place when you had to line up to buy tickets,
Yes.
much less to get into the gig?
Oh, my God, yeah.
The text goes on. January, it was 1 below. My sister and I had sleeping bags. We were drinking Schlitz malt liquor, the Bull, baby.
All right.
Yeah.
By the time we got our tickets the next day, we knew our entire section. Best concert ever, worth freezing for. And then here's the capper. I was in 8th grade.
You know you're Minnesota.
Nice.
I mean, I know they
love
tell
that.
us that booze, dehydrates, it contributes to hypothermia, but I mean, really kind of BS, because mentally it gets you over the hump. Schnapps on a cold hunting trip, and you're sitting out in the deer stand, a nip of schnapps. Don't tell me that doesn't warm you up from your hidely head to your boogly woogly toes. It works.
It certainly does.
Maybe not chemically. I don't know about the physics of it all or the physiology of it all, but it works. A little nip.
Bemidji coming in strong. Your new clubhouse leader, 19 below. Right on.
Well, how's International Falls doing up there? That's where we generally check in. International Falls up on the High Line there.
I got to figure that's going to be a rough one. Yeah.
He is always making the list. Embarrass Minnesota generally is one of the colder ones.
Right. I'm going to look up International Falls right now. 18 below. All right, so I think you just mentioned 18 below up in Bemidji, yeah. So that's some cold. 18 below, they're not even 2 layers with 18 below up in International Falls.
No.
Another snowmobiling stories up came in from Tim on the line. 91, we were snowmobiling near Big Fork. Stayed at a bar a little late. The ride back to the cabin, 37 below. The longest 9-mile ride ever.
Oh, there aren't. I mean, even the heated mitts and the heated clothes and the boots and everything, that still doesn't get the job done. No.
By the way, I can't believe it's taken me this long to remember. But as always, I've learned the important lesson. Thank God for choppers, huh?
Pair of choppers.
Man.
Oh, yeah. Mittens. I was a big tough guy until I started the Midwest. Well, I guess growing up, Dad never let us wear mittens. We thought we would hurt ourselves. Because we're farm kids. He's like, you got to be able to use your fingers. And he would, so if you did wear mittens, he'd be like, I need help with the gate. And you'd be sitting there fumbling around with your mittens, and he'd go, take your damn mittens off. So you just had to wear gloves. But now I'm sorry, I'm a mitten guy now. I'm a choppers guy now. Yeah, give me the mittens. That's the way to go.
Yeah, I always feel like the mittens, your fingers rubbing together, you get more heat going.
Yeah.
The individual, the finger sleeves, as I call them on gloves, that's not going to give you a good combined heat source.
Yeah. My dad didn't get cold. He's the a-hole. You know the old farmers in the Midwest here. They don't get cold. Their fingers are the size of Vienna sausage. They're huge, and they have some sort of weird circulation that I wasn't born. I must have got mom's fingers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very cold.
You've got the daintiest little hands, Zep. I've always thought you're like a porcelain doll, your little hands.
That's why they're always down my pants.
Exactly.
That's
exactly
why.
right.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. It's the KQ Morning Show on Minnesota's Classic Rock, 92 KQRS.
It's a cold one, ladies and gentlemen. It's just what it is. It's December, but unseasonably. Usually January, February, you expect these temperatures. I've been led to believe. So a little ahead of schedule as we're below zero in the entire area. Good luck. I'm going to share a text. This might be my favorite one so far. Also on the text line, a lot of people with stories of their coldest moments. I like this one. About 5 years ago, driving to work, temperature, the temperature thing in our car, the thermometer, on the dashboard, it said minus 26. 26 below. So I took a picture to send to my wife's brother in Arizona. Didn't notice until I looked at the picture. There was a guy in front of my car on his bicycle. That's great.
Oh, there's a guy on his bike out there right now somewhere around the metro pedaling away. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're moving anyway. You got to keep moving. It might keep you warm for a minute or two. Yeah.
There's a few text messages coming in from this one here. Rick just joined. He's not the first one to mention this. Rick from Monticello. I run outside all year round. When it's 20 below, I usually keep it less than 10 miles.
No, Rick, you're just bragging
just
now.
Flexing. Yeah. Flexing right on us there. Go figure. Hey, good morning to our listeners up in Buffalo.
Yeah, shout out to the Buffalo American Legion.
Out there out west Buffalo. Good morning. Happy to have you with us. Haven't heard from anybody in Buffalo yet this morning. Feel free to hit the text line. Let us know what's happening out there. I'm going to imagine it's a little chilly. That's what I'm going to think that is. A lot of people on the text line talking about concerts and, waiting for tickets, but also seeing a lot of great music when it's cold outside. I've got a lot of great memories of winter concerts. It's just, you're freezing, then you get into the hot venue, then you get back out in the cold. One of those things. And, Friday night, if you're looking for a gig, just thought I'd throw this out there. At the Uptown VFW, our old buddy, our dear friend Candace Wheeler and Sabotage rocking the Black Sabbath set Friday night along with Maiden Minneapolis. So you got Sabbath band, you got a Maiden band at the Uptown VFW this Friday night. That's going to rock. And if you've ever seen Sabotage, I will tell you, and I say this with respect, I was stunned at how good that band is. Yeah, a lot of fun. And at one of the best bars to have fun at, the Uptown VFW. It really is. Yeah, it's fantastic. First weekend I was in town, I went to a gig there. And I was like, okay, I now have at least one place I know I'm going to be back here every time I want to see a band that's playing here. It's a great gig. So go see good old Candace and rocking the Sabotage Friday night. As we prepare for Monday night's ascension to the heights beyond our wildest dreams continue. It is time to talk about some football, ladies and gentlemen. The Minnesota Vikings on quite the tear. Sam Ekstrom has been covering the Vikings since 2014. He's a host and executive producer with the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast Network, providing daily Vikings analysis on YouTube and your preferred podcast feed, and he's with us right now. Sam Ekstrom, good morning, sir. We just heard Cheap Trick from Live at Budokan. That album came out in 1978. The 78 Vikings atop the division with an 8-7-1 record. Oh, those were the days. Those were the days. Those were the days where you had a tie. Tie on your record more often than not. Yeah, that was a great year, 1978. I don't know how the postseason went for that team, but congrats to them for winning the division with 8 wins. You got to love that. We're way past 8 wins this time around. Before we look forward, let's look back. The big return of Kirk Cousins did not go the way I'm sure he was hoping. On Sunday's game, we saw it was really 2 games. There was 3 quarters, and then there was a 4th quarter. Just overall, before we look ahead, looking back on that Vikings win, is it a significant game in the story of this season, and if so, why? Yeah, I mean, this is the game where the Sam Darnold legend was taken to another level. If you've been awake the last 3 days, you've probably heard debate about whether Sam Darnold is the future quarterback of this team. And you weren't hearing that debate up until now, really with a whole lot of volume. I think that people were pretty set in. This is a 1-year arrangement. J.J. McCarthy is going to be here next year. Now it's a legitimate conversation, and people are curious about Sam Darnold being this quarterback for a number of years in Minnesota. And if you look at the last 3 fourth quarters, not just Sunday, but go back to the Bears game, Cardinals game, I mean, what he's doing late in games is astonishing stuff. It's top 5 quarterback in the league kind of stuff. And now people really are firing up the debate train on whether this guy is going to be around next year and the year after. I mean, I know that's a conversation around here all season, and I've asked you every few weeks, where do you stand with this? But, yeah, to your point, man, nationally, I noticed all week, any national outlet was having that conversation all of a sudden. So Sam he's going to be playing quarterback somewhere next year, and he's going to be getting paid a lot of money to do it. Whether it's here or not, of course, remains to be seen. He was the NFC Offensive Player of the Month in September. He's the NFC Offensive Player of the Week this week. So I guess that means Kirk Cousins is the Offensive Player of the Week because, just when you think Kirk might be grabbing a little magic out of that bag, he kirked himself right out of the end of that game, didn't he? He hasn't thrown a touchdown in a month. Sam Darnold hasn't thrown an interception in a month. They're going different directions. Kirk, I thought, played
well in that football game, except for two really atrocious interceptions, really bad. The first one, he just stared him down and threw it right to the underneath defensive back Josh Metellus. And then the second one, he had his tight end going right down the middle with the leverage. I mean, that if he completes that pass, it's a one-score game. Just airmailed it to Byron Murphy, who made a great one-handed play. And that's, I want to say it's 8 picks now, no touchdowns over the last 4 weeks for Kirk. Mm-hmm. That does not happen very often in the National Football League.
I mean, older quarterbacks that have torn their Achilles so far are looking really old. And I'm not saying comparing him to Aaron Rodgers and that, just that they're older quarterbacks that tore their Achilles and are on a comeback here. And I mean, it looked like he was moving Kirk's never been a big mover around the pocket kind of guy. He's give you 3 to 5 steps and launch the ball, but he looked older out there than I've ever seen him play. Well, since we've got the Bears coming up, Sam, if you don't mind, I want to go back to this quarterback thing that people are talking about more than this gimme game this weekend, which is probably the kiss of death. And that is analysts like yourself are saying, what are the Vikings going to get for a first-round quarterback? Where does he go? Is McCarthy? I mean, because they're not going to get a lot of high draft picks with this team winning this many games. Do they trade him out for some draft picks? Is that a way to go?
Oh, so if you trade McCarthy, that's what you're asking. So if you traded McCarthy, I mean, I think that a first-round quarterback off an injury probably fetches a similar price to Trey Lance. Trey Lance was in the same spot. He was the heir apparent. He got hurt in San Francisco. He was dealt for a 4th-round pick to Dallas. And I believe that was with 2 years left on his rookie deal. I think McCarthy has 3 years left plus the 5th-year option. So he might be worth a little bit more, probably a 2nd or 3rd-round pick. But that's it. You're not going to get a 1 for a quarterback coming off of an AC or not an ACL, meniscus injury. Yeah, I think it'd be a second-day pick, which is that worth it to trade the guy that you thought was going to be the future? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't envy anybody starting to make those decisions. I'm sure in August, anybody in the Vikings front office would have said they'd love to be where they are right now with a tough decision. But now that they're here, there's a lot of sleepless nights for sure looking ahead. So let's look ahead to Monday night's game. The Chicago Bears coming in, and like Zepp just said, it's a gimme, which scares anybody, especially when it's a division gimme. That said, there's a thing in the NFL, really with any sport. It's called new coach energy. When a coach gets fired, the new guy comes in, and often there's a little bump. The locker room, gathers around, and they circle the wagons, and they come out. The Chicago Bears had the exact opposite this past Sunday. One of the worst performances in recent memory out in San Francisco. Did you watch, especially the first half of that Bears game? Did you get a chance to see any of that grease fire?
Yeah, every time I turned around, it looked like Brock Purdy was marching down the field, and I don't know if I saw Caleb Williams ever complete a pass. I mean, it was 319 to 4 yardage-wise in the first half. 319 to 4. Was it a high school team playing an NFL team? I don't know, but the Bears were hard fighting and plucky and tough to beat for about a month there. And I think all of the devastating losses just broke them. I think their spirit and their soul got crushed after the way Thanksgiving went, and they had no fight left. So you hope you're getting a bit of a banged-up, demoralized team. They're clearly out of the playoff race. I think the only thing that makes this not loser-proof is that it's Caleb Williams on the other side. I think you still respect Caleb Williams, what he can do, his scrambling. And you have to take it seriously. You do. You can't get caught in the trap game, not at this stage of the season. But this is a game that should be comfortable for Minnesota in the second half. That would be my hope.
Sam, is there a concern about our run defense, which in the last few weeks has suddenly gotten very soft? Does Chicago have the weapons to kind of hurt us on the ground the way Arizona and Atlanta both were able to do kind of easily, it felt like?
Yeah, a lot of it is the quarterback, right? The quarterback can beat you on the ground when you play Arizona, when you play Chicago, and you worry about that. But you also worry about their rushing attack itself with Swift and Johnson and those backs. They've kind of got a lightning thunder dynamic over there. Right. I don't think they're quite as potent on the ground as, say, the Falcons were with Bijan. The Falcons were really good. And teams that have a good running game have had a bit of an easier time running against this Vikings front. So that's something to watch for. But, again, if the Bears can't complete a forward pass, as they couldn't against San Francisco, that's a pretty good stifler for the run game. So it kind of all works. It all marries together, right? If you can move the ball down the field through the air, that'll open up your running game.
All right. Well, with the Bears this weekend, and you know, we can look past it as fans, and it's going to be a Monday night game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Should be a win. We're hoping the team doesn't, and I'm sure they won't. But then it gets real serious. It's heading out to the Seahawks, who are suddenly one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Then the Packers come to town, and they finish it up with the Lions. Can the Vikings, will they clinch with a win over the Bears this week in a playoff spot?
They will secure the playoff spot. They might even secure it tonight. If the Rams lose, I think they're in. So they could know that they're in on Monday. And then the prize is the division. Can you catch Detroit? There's a chance Detroit loses to Buffalo Sunday afternoon. Vikings could be playing on Monday night with a chance to tie Detroit atop the division. And that would really open the door to win the North in Week 18 when you go to Ford Field. So there's a ton to play for coming up beyond just the playoff berth. But that one seed is still tantalizing there at the top of the conference.
Wow, as Ryder starts to work over those fingernails nervously now. Let's one last thing before I get your pick, and I just if you just want to add anything to the shine, JJ and Jordan Addison, what a game for both of those guys on Sunday, and I felt great watching it. Sam was lighting it up. They both had huge games, and I just thought to myself, now we're playing some tougher defenses coming up, certainly, but man, to see it just feel like all the pieces were locked in. This is a team that's been kind of tinkering throughout the season. We've had some lackluster performances. They always seem to get it late. But do you think that that's an indicator of where the team is going to be looking? You know, are we going to be looking downfield? Are we going to be trying to put more points on the board? Because it's been a while since we saw 42. Was the game against Atlanta in any way sort of a harbinger for what we can expect from here on out?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of emerging moments for Jordan Addison in particular, where he's put together a couple 100-yard games now. The catches he makes are ridiculous. And think about last year, guys. They start the season, Jefferson gets hurt pretty quickly. Then when he comes back, they've got Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins and back like Jaron Hall. They've got backup quarterbacks. So we hadn't really seen Jefferson and Addison together on the field with a good quarterback situation until this year. And then early this year, Addison had an ankle that he dealt with. So it's taken a while to really unlock the power of those two together at once. And we're finally starting to see it. And then you've got a little sprinkle of TJ Hawkinson on the side and Aaron Jones. I mean, the weapons now look really potent for this team.
Yeah, they certainly do. It's a good time not to be a Bears fan for sure. So they're coming in Monday night. Let's get to it, Sam. Give me your pick. Vikings hosting the Bears on a big Monday.
Let's go 31-18. Vikings win comfortably. They don't have to sweat this one. And I think there's going to be a defensive touchdown in the mix. Let's go Andrew Van Ginkel with a scoop and score after sacking Caleb Williams.
Oh, hell yeah. We'll take that. We'll take that all day long. And you know what? Screw it. Tonight, like you said, with the Niners win over the Rams we're in, how do you see that game going quickly?
I think the Niners might have one last push in them after what they showed with against the Bears. I'm going to go Niners. I'm going to go Vikings clinch tonight. And that NFC West is getting pretty interesting. I think the Niners will get it done.
All right. Nice. All right, Sam, it's always a pleasure, brother. Enjoy Monday night. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Talk to you then. Thanks.
Thanks. Boy, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of food for thought right there, man, to clinch before even kickoff on Monday, possibly. And then I forgot the Lions, at Buffalo. That's It's getting a little dicey. How you
I
feeling
don't
over
enjoy.
there, Ryder?
No, I asked my second favorite Bills Mafia member if we were going to watch the game together, and he just shook it off like we're both freaking out.
Yeah.
Now, well, don't bet him a pizza. He won't pay up if he loses. I know what you're talking about. I mean, it's very exciting here in the middle of December, not to be just talking about a playoff clinch, but I like where Sam was pushing. I mean, there is a chance to win this division. Seahawks are red hot right now. You got to fly out there and play them. The Packers, I mean, the Packers are as good as probably the Vikes and the Lions, really.
Oh, they're right there.
Any one of those teams could beat each other. So, I mean, some exciting football down the stretch here. We love it.
It's pretty great. It is December the 12th. The Vikings are looking good. I feel fine myself. Why don't we look forward with a little something we call the Top 5 at 9 coming up. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. It's the KQ Morning Show on Minnesota's Classic Rock, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Good Thursday morning. It is December the 12th. If you are one of the lucky few who are just now getting your day started, don't. Turn around. Do not pass go. Go back to bed. How about that for a plan? Good God, it's cold out there. On a December morning, we are well ahead of schedule for the you got to be kidding me weather. And we've been sharing a lot of text messages from listeners, a lot of looking back over those horrifically cold moments of your life. They always get a little warmer. The glow of hindsight brings back a little bit of, yeah, but it was still okay. And case in point, this text in mid-'80s, I was in Des Moines to see a band in a bar. It was single-digit cold and windy. The small entry where the ticket booth was had frost all over it. I was questioning myself, why did I spend money to see a band I've never heard of on such a cold night? Turns out the band was Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I got within a few feet of the stage and was mesmerized. The whole night was priceless. I kid you not. Read that text and got goosebumps. Like, oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's worth it.
Yeah, I've got one just about as good, but it was good old First Avenue, and it was in February. I'm forgetting the year, 1990s, and there was some thought that, do we go? Because it was double digits below zero that night, and the wind was a whipping. In downtown, you park, you got to walk outside a little to get to First Avenue, but the Pretenders were playing. And they were out on this tour, and Chrissie Hynde had put the band back together with some Nashville musicians. And you know the drummer's name. I forget the drummer's name. He's one of my favorites. He's fantastic. Of course, he was still with Chrissie Hynde. And I remember stepping outside to smoke cigarettes and couldn't feel your toes or fingers. You couldn't even feel the hot smoke entering your lungs. But maybe my favorite show ever of all time.
Sure.
One of the best. And Chrissy and the gang got it so hot at First Avenue. Yeah, the mascara ran. You bet your ass it did.
Yeah, Martin Chambers, by the way, is that drummer. Martin Chambers. Awesome. I met him first time my band was ever on tour in Europe. We were at a festival, and he was playing with somebody not the Pretenders at the time. And I walked up to him very nervously, and I was like, hey, Martin Chambers, my name's Steve Gorman. And, of course, he's just like the nicest guy in the world, and just like, oh, yeah, hey, man, good record, good to meet you. And then I was debating, now, do I tell him my Pretenders show story, which I didn't, but I had a similar experience. I saw the Pretenders. This is back in the mid-'80s. It was another one of these freezing cold nights, waiting online outside the gig to get in, and everybody's freezing, and then you come back out afterwards, you're covered in sweat, and you're too hot to put on your coat, but then you almost die because you're not wearing a coat, and it was just a great night. And I remember thinking very clearly that night that I had I felt a little unmoored, if you will, because it was that thing where I was questioning, like, I mean, Chrissie Hynde's not like a conventional beauty, but I'd never been more attracted to a woman in my life. And I was like, what's going on? What are these feelings I have? She's kind of scary, and yet I'm wildly turned on. I just remember so clearly debating during, as the show's happening, I'm like, this doesn't feel like me. What is this? I guess I'm growing up, and now I'm attracted to things I never thought possible. It was what a kick-ass band the Pretenders are.
Yeah, no doubt. Great. Chrissy live, and you're right. When the mascara runs, she just brings a little more energy, and up there in that wife beater. And yeah, I would have. I was a groupie. I would have whatever Chrissy wanted.
Here's a text on the KQ Talking text line, 651-989-ROCK from Christine, and then we'll get to your top 5 at 9. When I was about 10 years old, my brother had a hockey tournament up in Two Harbors, so this is already going in the right direction. My family went up there. Dad hadn't rented a hotel room, and they were all full. So we ended up staying in a little cabin on Lake Superior. You can see the lake right outside the cabin. No bathroom in it. We had to walk out about half a block to an outhouse. It had a wood stove. It was 20 below zero and windy as hell. That's the one part you didn't have to share with us. We knew it was windy as hell on Lake Superior in the middle of the winter. It was one of the most horrible experiences of my life. I never went to another hockey tournament with my family again. I flat out refused. Christine, did you ever think that was the whole goal? They were like, how do we get her to stop coming to these? I know what we'll do. We'll go to a cabin in the woods on the lake, and we'll make her walk to an outhouse. Job well done, Dad. I guess he knew exactly what he was doing. All right, let's get to your top 5 at 9. Here's some stories, if you're just getting your day started, you may want to know about. Vindication, ladies and gentlemen, for our dear friend Brian Zepp. Right when I got to town, we were discussing the fact that marijuana is now legal in the state of Minnesota, and they're going to figure it out, and pretty soon there'll be dispensaries and we can go buy pot. And this is like January of 24, and Zepp said it's not going to January of 23, and Zepp said, no, that's not going to happen. And I said, no, what do you mean they're not? And he goes, no, I know they just passed legislation. It's never going to happen. And to your point, Zepp, yes, they delayed this yet again. Earliest June of 25, the Office of Cannabis Management canceled its pre-approval lottery after a bunch of lawsuits convinced a judge to put it on hold. Minnesota will be, at best, the third slowest state moving from legalization to actual licensed retail sales.
Oh, no, they'll be the slowest.
No, we're number 3, but not for long.
Yeah, no, you boobs. I take very little satisfaction in being right on this, but if you've hung around this day, when did I move here? 87, 88? Long enough, you realize once you hand something over to these and you make an office of cannabis management, they can't get out of their own way. I forget how many people have retired or have just quit, but try all over again. Broom that office. Go in there, throw everyone out on the street today when it's cold.
Make
them get the hell out. You don't even have time to get your coats. We already threw them out on the street for you. They're out there on the sidewalk in St. Paul. Get the hell out. Get some people in there. It doesn't have to be this complicated. You know why? Because what are we, the 24th, 25th state, something like that? Half the states have gone legal recreation. Go ahead. What did they do in Colorado? Check it out. Pick up the phone, give them a call, shoot an email. I'd say get the job done, but they won't get the job done. Luckily, we're all still getting stoned, you idiots.
Ever since, really, with the advent of smartphones. Once we all got smartphones, wasn't it just fun to score weed again?
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, hey, do we need some? And then it wasn't like, let me call the one phone number I have on a piece of paper. It was, which one of these 136 people should I contact to see who can get me weed the fastest?
Yeah.
It's just, what's wrong with the system we have is what I'm saying.
There wasn't anything wrong with it per se, but they've made it a lot easier because now you can legally grow it in Minnesota. They didn't hold that up, so you can legally grow it. I know more people that are legally growing fantastic weed with the help of the internet and DIY videos and articles and all that stuff. It's never been easier to get. It's never been cheaper to get. You guys just sit there in the office over there. I hope you're ripping some bong hits, but I doubt you probably are. You go ahead and sit on your hands all you want. We're doing just fine out here.
Number 4 on your top 5 at 9. Check this out. In New Jersey and in some parts of New York State, the FBI is investigating many, many, many reports. It's now being taken quite seriously of mysterious nighttime drones. Drones that are flying in, very bright lights, flashing lights, disappearing as soon as people try to chase them and film them. And here's the fun part. These drones are, quote, SUV-sized drones. This is Chevy Tahoes and Ford Explorers just blasting overhead in New Jersey, apparently. The report started in the summer, but now in the winter months, as they approach, they've really ramped up more and more reports. And, the FBI, generally speaking, they love to get these reports. They're like, yeah, we'll take a look at it. They don't really want to send somebody up there to chase this. And they are now, because that's how many people are saying they're seeing these. And there are videos online, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't look like a helicopter or a plane that I've seen before. It's turned into a thing. I've seen a few drones in my life. You're walking down the street. It's happened on Main Street, right down in my neighborhood here. And I'll look up. You hear it. Chauncey's the sound of a drone winds him up like no one's business. And while he's looking for it, I usually find it first, and I just look at it and I'm like, who's the douchebag? Who's the douchebag? Who's the douchebag that's within a few hundred yards of me? Yeah. That's, I'm sure, just filming the neighborhood for some reason. Like, what, dude?
Peeking in windows.
Get out of here with that thing. But those drones are the kind where I think to myself, if I'm looking around like, where's the potato? I'll bring that thing down. Give me a good side. Give me a russet and let me see if my arm still works. An SUV-sized drone? No, thank you. I want no part of that crap.
I will say, if the alien invasion, if this is, and you are listening to this broadcast, we'll concede New York and New Jersey. Remember, we're flyover land for a reason. Just keep flying. Head out to the coast. Do what you got to do to the coast. We understand, but fly over. That's all I'm saying.
If there was ever a time to feel really good about being a flyover, it's when the SUV drones are coming in full waves. I saw a video the other day online, speaking of drones, and it was a Christmas light drone, display. Yeah. And it was 5,000 drones. All as a Santa sleigh with all the reindeer and Christmas trees and a skyline in the background. Yeah. 5,000 drones all flying around together. And I'm just thinking to myself, I was impressed when there was 12 drones doing something together. And 5,000? Forget it, man. I'll just go back to firecrackers. I'm good. Sometimes things it's just too much for me to even think about how that's possible. Number 3 on your top 5 at 6. Or 9, as I like to call it. Sometimes I flip numbers. Top 5 at 9. A gentleman in Utah is going through some things. He's all up in his feels, as they say. Bought a car on Monday, a used car. Within a few minutes, decided it was a lemon. Went back to the dealership. He said, hey, I need a refund. And the dealership was like, no, that's not how we see this going. And so we're going to play you a little audio. You're going to have the gentleman in reverse order. You'll hear the customer himself. Then you'll hear then you will hear from the sales manager. But before you hear either of them speak, this is a little audio of what the guy decided to do with his car once he realized he was stuck with it.
Whoa! Call the cops! Is anybody under the car? No.
It was kind of a very, very scary situation. Several hours later, he came back and he was very emotional. He said, listen, if you don't give me my money back right now, I'm going to run this car right through the front door.
I was just really angry. I was upset about my money. I kind of blacked out for a second. I know I probably shouldn't have done it, but I guess I just hit a breaking point.
Oh, yeah, goof. Well, go home and think about what you've done. No, I don't think so.
Do you remember the movie with John Cusack from the 80s? Rob Reiner directed it, I think, called The Sure Thing.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell at all?
It rings a bell.
It's really, really funny. There's a scene where John Cusack, he's like a college kid, and he's in a bar somewhere out west. He's on a road trip across country, and he just looks over next to him, and a very large gentleman looks at him, and just out of the blue, like a total non sequitur, he's just needs someone to talk to, the way a lonely guy in a bar would. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I've got to go off the grid here, but that just reminded me of it. And the guy in the bar looks at this college kid and he goes, I ate fried food again. And Cusack, and he goes, I know I shouldn't have, but I just couldn't help it. And it's just, and I haven't seen that movie in 40 years. I swear, something about that guy right there. I just blacked out for a minute. I don't know. I was just upset about the money. I mean, the instant regret, the regret that guy is feeling. That is I don't often use the word rue. But my man is ruining. He's ruining some ruinous activity in his own life. I feel bad for him. Not as bad as I feel for, the person who was standing in the doorway and leapt to save their own life from a car driving in. But, hey, all in a day in Utah.
From all of us hotheads, I mean, been there, have not done that. It goes through your now. I'm a very reactionary hothead.
Yeah.
I blow up. But, I'm a man of words, not action. I just talk the talk. I don't walk the walk. So I get where this guy was probably emotionally. Sure. But man, it's the regret. They've got a doghouse for you, buddy, and you're going to be in it.
Well, they keep a tight lid on things in Utah. New Mexico is the land of enchantment. Utah is the land of repression. And so when the lid goes, it goes. Look out. You know what I'm saying? Number 2 on your top 5 at 9. This is a special story. You remember when Michigan went down and beat Ohio State a couple weeks ago, and they tried to plant their flag on midfield and a giant brawl erupted between the players? Well, a politician in Ohio was very upset by this. He was very upset by the Michigan players with the audacity to plant a Michigan flag at the 50-yard line of the stadium there in Columbus. And he is now, I mentioned he's a politician, a state representative. He's introduced a bill that he's calling the Ohio Sportsmanship Act.
No, go away.
The words Ohio and sportsmanship in the same sentence is funny on its own. But if passed, this gentleman says he's dead serious. It's going to go up to a vote. If passed, it would classify on-field flag planting as a 5th-degree felony, with a penalty of 6 to 12 months in prison, up to a $2,500 fine and 5 years probation.
Yeah, there you go. You'll teach them.
Here's the quote. Here's the actual language. No person shall plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of a college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Okay, so they'll be there Friday night.
Yeah, right.
They'll be there Sunday morning. What are you doing?
What about shoving your flag up a state legislator's ass? Would that be illegal?
That's just good old fashioned expressing yourself again. This is I would be all for that. We'll keep you posted on whether or not the state of Ohio ever wants to put on their big boy pants and join the adults in the room. Hey, good morning, Brooklyn Park. Good to have you with us today.
Yeah, it'd be a nice day to get out into the Palmer Lake Environmental Nature Center and go for a nice walk out there.
The hawk is out already, man. Just whipping out there right now. Happy to know you're with us, Brooklyn Park. Number 1 on your top 5 at 9, Ryan Borgwart, the man who disappeared himself in Wisconsin this summer. If you remember, Ryan Borgwart is the man's name. He took a kayak out onto Green Lake in Wisconsin, sank it, snuck away, faked his own death, ended up in Eastern Europe, apparently because he met a woman online over there, and he decided, I'm just going to fake my own death and flee. He left behind, among other things, 3 children and a wife.
Wow.
Police were pretty much on top of him very quickly because he, of course, had to get into Canada to get a flight to Europe, and while doing so, showed a passport at the border. And thankfully, we have computers and people can check into these things. So everybody kind of figured out pretty quickly this isn't exactly what it looked like. It doesn't look like he drowned in the lake. It looked like he sunk a kayak and went to Canada. Ended up in Eastern Europe. November 11th or so, he got in touch to say, yes, I'm still alive. I'm in Eastern Europe. And, I'm fine. Stop worrying about me. And at some point since then, he's decided, I can't live with myself. I should return home. He did return to Wisconsin of his own volition. He is now in jail facing a charge, which is not as big a charge as I would have thought. I would think if you fake your own death, get a second passport, take out a life insurance policy, go through all that work, and then force people to search with scuba gear a lake for 2 months, I think you're going to be up a creek. a felony creek, but apparently no, he was charged with 1 count of misdemeanor obstructing an officer because he intentionally misled investigators to do the whole fake death thing.
Well, it's not like he planted a flag in the middle of a football field, Steve. You know what? Slap this guy on the wrist, take his passport, make him pay back the $50,000. He probably doesn't have it, and then get him the hell out of here. Put him on a plane and drop him off in one of those third world crap holes, and just get the hell out of here. I you just feel for his wife and his kids and the time of the year, but hopefully there's a lot of family, and what do they say? The community, as they say, is surrounding that family and providing some love. You just feel really bad for the kids because they just can't understand a dad that abandoned them in such a way. And they're hearing about it because it's so publicized. Yeah, give Wisconsin back their money and get the hell out of here, man.
It all brings to mind the famous Cheech and Chong line, bailiff, whack his pee-pee.
And whack his pee-pee while you're at it.
Bailiff, whack his pee-pee. That's what you get. There's your top 5 at 9.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.